postpone the meeting to help the Royals in the World Series that they are in. So we postponed it until tonight, October 23rd, regular session number 37, now underway. The invocation tonight delivered to us by Sue Watson.
Father God, as the seasons change, leaves change their colors, and we know that you are still in control. You see our goings and our comings, and we just want to take a moment to say thank you. The seasons progress whether we're ready or not, but we are still able to find something that touches us and reminds us that you are in charge, not us. We ask for some safety and fun for all involved during the upcoming Halloween weekend, next weekend. And I want to offer our praise to you and thank you for all you do for us. We ask that you guide the discussions here tonight and guide us to the right decisions for the good of our community. Be with us now and grant that all go back to their families, friends, and homes safely as the meeting closes. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's the clerk call the roll, please.
Alderman Nelson.
Here.
Alderman Lightfoot.
Here.
Alderman Azier. Alderman Mock.
Here.
Alderman Josh Green.
Here.
Alderman Dan Lusker.
Here.
Alderman Kramer. Alderman Ertz.
Here.
Alderman Jason Green. Alderman Emerson.
Here.
Control over their sound. Yeah. So you can turn that down a little bit. Test. Let's try that. Thank you. Okay, very good. We'll open the floor for public comments at this time. I've got first on the list is Nancy Bradley. Nancy, if you'd like to come forward. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm here on behalf of Super Splash. We'd like for it to stay in the community. It is a viable, important part of the family activities in Raytown. It is the only thing that is wholly just for the family. It's not a single sport thing. And we would really appreciate it if you would keep in mind how important it is to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we've got Debbie Luke.
Hi, I'm here to address Super Splash issue as well. I've been a lifelong resident of Raytown, and my children are being raised in Raytown too. And I have two of them here today with me. And I grew up swimming at Raytown Pool, and now Super Splash. My children have grown up swimming at Super Splash and have even been employed by Super Splash. And I know that the community that goes to Super Splash and uses it, it's vital that we keep this open in Raytown. I find myself so many times wanting to live in Raytown, but it's really a struggle because I find myself leaving Raytown to do things where it'd be nice to have those opportunities here in Raytown. And the pool would be one of them. We don't have those pools. We have Woodson Village, which is a small community pool, and we have Southbrook. And again, it's in decay. So we really need to think about what we're offering young families in the community. What makes Raytown are the places that families can go and teenagers to have jobs. If you go down Raytown Road in the summertime, you'll see a lot of teenagers walking to Super Splash. Those are great jobs for them. They learn life skills that they can't get anywhere else. So I'm just asking you, please consider funding it. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Weaver.
I'm also here about Super Splash. I've been a Raytown resident for 17 years now. I've been at the pool since I can remember. My kids have grown up at that pool. My oldest has wanted to work there forever, and finally, this coming summer, she'll be old enough to be a guard. And so when she heard that they were closing down, she, said, "Mom, go up there." So here I am. It's just a big part of our community, and as she said before, there are lots of things that I constantly see myself going to Lee Summit for, and I really don't want to be at Summit Waves. I want to be at Super Splash. My kids are there. We've had season passes for the last 10 years. It's something that my kids can do every day, to the point that during the summer, my suit stays in my car. My kids go to the pool with the nanny. When I get off work, that's where I go, so it's an important part of our lives. It's an important part of our community. My kids have been swimming at that pool from birth. My youngest son started swimming. He was on his own scaring lifeguards at 2 years old. So, he's always had his birthday parties there. It's just a big part of our lives. And without that, there's not anything to do in the summertime here in Raytown. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Next, I got Jessica, and Jessica, I don't know if is it Weller? Wetzler, okay. Jessica Wetzler. Oh, we're going to have two people speak from that. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. I'm here as far as the Super Splash as well. That a few points that I wanted to make sure is, first, in the summertime, where do we want our kids going? Because otherwise, with the YMCA being closed down, there's nothing in Raytown any longer for our kids to do. As well as the fact that they had mentioned, as far as Lee Summit, that I know with our community center and everything trying to figure out what to do next year, those are the only options, is to move outside of Raytown. That we need to be able to do something that's, generating funds here. Whether we need to do something in regards to volunteering, some type of campaign to raise money for it. And I'm not stuck that it has to be Super Splash. My thing is, we need either Super Splash or we need the YMCA building, but we need something open and available for teenagers to be doing. And that's the biggest key, is we need something for them to be doing, because if they're not doing something positive with adult supervision, then they're doing things we don't want them to be doing. That the more active we can keep them. And right now with the Ray South, I know in Raytown, there are swim teams that my niece just joined. We're busing them over to Lee Summit because we don't have a pool here any longer for them to use. So we're putting a lot more money out of our pockets and into other places versus trying to look about what we can do within our community to correct the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. All very strong points. Would anyone else in the audience like to address the Board of Aldermen at this point in time? Michael. Welcome, Michael Downing.
Michael Downing, Raytown. The only thing I would say is I would actually think about expanding it. The one thing we lack that's critical for our seniors at the Y is a warm water, easy entrance pool. A lot of our seniors with arthritis and such, this is the only way they can really get exercise in and stay healthy. And this is an anonymity that Raytown at present without the Y lacks. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else at this time? Leave your name.
Hi, I'm Maddie Lukey. I've worked at Super Splash for 5 years now. It was my first job when I was in high school. I wasn't always enthusiastic that I had to go to work, but coming out of it, I've learned that it's made me a better person. It set me up for success in the future, because we're looking at this as a starting job for high school students, even younger, as they can work at 14 as a pool attendant. But I know that it's helped me get other jobs outside of Super Splash. It's helped me get an internship at a hospital over the summer, because it teaches me vital safety skills. It teaches you customer service. It teaches you how to be able to talk to people that you might not get to interact with every single day. Another thing that I think that's really important that Super Splash offers is swim lessons for younger children. An example is I taught 2 children that had Asperger's for 2 summers, and they were able to get affordable swim lessons where they might not have to get them, where they might not be able to get them somewhere else. And I know that the rates that Super Splash offers for swim lessons is something that you cannot get anywhere else. And so we're setting our teenagers up for success by giving them these jobs. And we're also setting our children up for putting them in these swim lessons so that they'll be able to go to the pool and have a safe time there. And then they also learn safety lessons and life lessons while they're there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manny. Okay, anyone else? Not seeing any other public comments, we'll move on with the agenda then. This time we do have communication from the mayor, and I'm extremely proud of a couple of events that again happened in our city this past weekend. Both of them setting new records. The Grey County Education Foundation run occurred this past Saturday, bright and early. A little chilly as it always is, but we had there were 447 runners, which I believe set a new mark for the contest itself, and that's always a fun time. You see a lot of youth and a lot of families out there walking together. It was really a good time. Later on that evening, we also had over 1,000 pumpkins at the Kiwanis Cave Springs event that were on parade for the young people and families to tour. And there were over 3,600 people that attended that event and walked through Cave Springs Park to experience it as well as the pumpkins and enjoy the Halloween environment. Also coming up, we've got the Rice Romani Fall Soup and Crafts Fair. It's going to happen November 1st and 2nd from 11 to 4. Again, 11 to 4, November 1st and 2nd. Rice Romani Home Fall Soup and Crafts event. That's always a lot of fun in the cool weather that we're having now. So with that, other than just promoting ourselves and being obviously the backyard of the ballpark and welcoming Jim Ager to the meeting, we'll move on now. Mahesh, anything from the city administrator?
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Alderman. As you can see, we are still in a remodel process, and therefore working with the audio video. We have only one microphone here at the table today, and we were unable to record and broadcast live the council meeting. So once we realized that, we asked Michael Downing to come and help us out, and I want to thank him for taking time. On a very short notice, he was able to come here tonight and record the meeting, which once we receive the recording, will broadcast on our Channel 7. Also, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, in the agenda we have listed closed session item. There will be no closed session tonight. And staff is giving 2 presentations, therefore I will cut short my comments and use my time for them so that they can utilize the time appropriately. With that, I will conclude my report.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll go to committee reports. We'll start on my right. Mr. Green, any committee reports?
Nothing for this time.
All right, Mr. Ager?
Nothing this time.
Ms. Nelson?
Well, I would invite anybody that wants to next week after we win and we're coming back to Kansas City to help us. We're cheering on the corner, and you can meet at 4:45 at the chamber office, and that will be next Tuesday when we come back, right? And to promote the Royals when they are, everybody gets tricked back into the stadium.
Good, thank you. Ms. Emerson?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Ernst?
Other than our board, which passed the budget, will come up later in the meeting, so I'll pass.
Mr. Van Lester?
Nothing to see.
Mr. Mock?
Yeah.
Don't duck your head.
First off, I've got a couple of things. First, November 9th at Reagan High School, there will be a tribute and thank you to all American veterans. This would be at 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, on November 9th. One other thing, my daughter had received an A+ in school this past week, and so I allowed her
provide an overview on the existing tools that we use currently for code enforcement activities, and they're all related to neighborhood revitalization, as well as some new tools that we've been developing and are in the process of implementing, and then wrap up with some potential kind of where we're headed down the road, or could be headed, I should say, down the road at some point in the future. So as far as our existing property neighborhood revitalization tools, we have code enforcement obviously is our primary tool that we use for neighborhood to promote or encourage neighborhood revitalization, as well as neighborhood stabilization program, or our NSP3 program grant. We also dangerous building abatement and vacant and abandoned property registration. Going on code enforcement, that involves property maintenance, nuisance abatement, municipal court for those property owners that don't take care of their code violations. And then we also, in partnership with the Public Works Department, we do sign sweeps on a weekly basis for illegal signs in the right-of-ways. And then also we do use permit inspections for commercial properties when an ownership and business changes or new business comes to town, and that use permit inspection involves property maintenance inspection of that property, as well as inspection of the interior of the building for life safety codes.
Is your mic on?
The neighborhood stabilization program, or our NSP3 grant, is targeted at north of 59th Street in Raytown. That's a $1.25 million grant that we received from the Department of Housing and Urban Development in partnership with the cities of Sugar Creek and Grandview. We're wrapping up that grant, and we're now using the program income as homes are sold. That comes back in a revolving manner for that program. To date, within Raytown, we've had 3 new homes constructed. That have also included 3 homes being torn down on those properties. 1 home was acquired and rehabbed and is currently for sale. And then 2 homes are currently under construction. They began construction within the last 2 weeks. And to date, two homes have been sold. So obviously there's some homes for sale right now. As part of that program in Raytown, there's also been homes that have been constructed in Grandview and Sugar Creek as well. But I'm just here, I'm just focusing on the Raytown homes, or our portion of the grant. The dangerous building abatement is another tool that was adopted by the board in March of 2009. Right now, we've demolished 7 homes to date through that program. The one thing on that program, however, it's viewed as a solution, and it's really not a solution. What it does help in minimizing the magnitude or reducing the magnitude and the visibility of code violations or abandoned homes that have become dangerous from neglect, but it does not resolve the problems, because what we've ended up with are vacant lots that the city continues to have to mow, because the property owners are still owning those properties, but they're not mowing them. So we're now issuing work orders. The taxpayers are paying those costs to have the city or contractor mow those properties, and then they're billed, and they don't get paid, their liens filed on the properties. And then also, and probably to a larger extent, because the home no longer is on those properties, the property tax revenue from those properties is reduced. So there's a tax loss to the city, the school district, all the taxing entities from lost property values. Another existing tool that we have is abatement and property registration. This provides contact information to property managers for property owners not residing within 45 miles of Raytown. That generally people have been registering properties. The challenge on those is once the property is occupied, they don't call us to let us know that it's been occupied, and so it stays on our as a vacant or abandoned property. The police department we're working with the police department, the patrol officers, as they can, drive by these homes and check them, and they can sometimes verify that they're now occupied, so we can take them off. But we're having to do that on a staff time. So it helps in some regards, in another regard, it doesn't. challenges of our existing tools that we have, one is we don't, while we obviously are out, code enforcement officers are out doing inspections and receiving complaints and responding to those, we truly don't understand the full magnitude of our housing or neighborhood revitalization and housing conditions in the community, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. Also, what we've run into on code violations for property maintenance, there's some property owners, and that I shouldn't have said every property owner, that wasn't the intent that every property owner has this problem, but we have run into instances where some property owners are not, they are financially not able to address their, or take care of their violations, and they're stuck. Because it does no good to bring them to court and fine them or put them in jail. That doesn't resolve the problem. The violation still remains. They're just being punished, but we're not resolving the violation. It's not getting corrected. Another challenge is difficulty in obtaining personal identifiers of property owners. For us to issue a court summons, we have to have their social security number or driver's license number, and that's a challenge at oftentimes for us. We've developed ways to get that information and work to get that, but it still is an ongoing challenge. As I mentioned, another challenge is the lost property tax revenues through the dangerous building abatement process, as well as properties that are not maintained have violations that decrease the property values, not only of that property, but the properties around them. And then the ongoing cost to the city and ultimately to our taxpayers for the property maintenance costs, as I mentioned before, for issuing work orders and having our contractor owning properties, removing junk, trash, and debris, things like that. So with that in mind, some of the new tools that I want to discuss or present to you tonight, there's 4 of them. The first is Brush with Kindness. Also want to talk about a housing plan, the Missouri Abandoned Housing Act, and the Neighborhood Preservation Act, which is through the state of Missouri as well. Brush with Kindness, we've had a conversation, preliminary conversations with the Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity. They, in addition to building homes, they actually have another program called Brush with Kindness, where they go in and help property owners that don't have the financial resources or the physical capabilities to fix and address violations on their property. So we're working with Habitat for Humanity to develop a program to address that need. We're also, one of the strengths of Raytown is the number of churches and volunteers that come through those churches. We're looking at a way to basically line up church groups that are looking for opportunities to volunteer and help the community with Habitat for Humanity to help address the violations. This is not intended to be a way to allow property owners to create violations and then get it taken care of without them contributing. And that's where Habitat for Humanity comes in, where they can gauge the need. Is it truly a need, or is it someone that's just not being a good property owner and taking care of their property? The one thing on the code enforcement part, and this will help with that, is code enforcement by itself, taking people to court, citing people. Without this type of program, what our code enforcement activities can actually contribute to is increased rate of property abandonment, because we put a property owner in between a rock and a hard place where they can't afford or are not capable of addressing the violation, but they have no help, no way to address it. So sometimes those property owners, they just walk away from their property. Then it becomes an abandoned property, and that becomes a bigger problem. So this program is intended to address that need and avoid those problems, or that specific type of problem. A housing plan is another tool that we're developing. We've entered into an agreement with Builders Development Corporation within the past month. Builders Development Corporation, as a reminder, we're contracted with them as part of our NSP3 program as our housing specialist. They are the entity that acquires the properties once they're identified, and then they make the decision to either rehab, tear down, and build a new house, and then sell it. They also, through our working relationship we've had with them over the past few years, they also have the capabilities to develop a housing plan. This addresses that magnitude to help us understand what is the magnitude and the more specific issues related to our neighborhoods and housing issues in the community. The housing next tool is the Missouri Abandoned Housing Act, and this is in place by statute. There's nothing we as a city have to do on this to adopt this as an ordinance or a resolution. What the Abandoned Housing Act by the state of Missouri allows is for a nonprofit or community development corporation like Village Development Corporation to go file a petition with the courts, with the circuit court, to take over ownership, temporary ownership of a property that is run down or abandoned, and then fix it up or tear it down and build a new house, whatever it may be, and then sell it. And the property owner has the ability, through that process, to come back after that work is done and repay all those costs and then buy the house back. Very rarely does that happen, however, because otherwise they'd be investing in fixing up the house. So this is truly a tool that's been there. We were not aware of it. We become aware of it, have become aware of it through our working relationship with Builders Development Corporation. They're doing this with the City of Independence over the past few years, and have made a positive impact on the City of Independence. So we're wanting to look into this or develop this program as well. We're currently talking with them about property in Raytown. They filed a petition with the court to get ownership of that property, and they're in that process. This process, however, can take up to 6 months to go through the court process to acquire. So, well, on a city staff standpoint, one of the changes we're implemented or have implemented is when our code enforcement officers, first time they identify an abandoned property, we're passing that information, that address, that property ownership information, other information we may have on the Builders Development Corporation so they can start looking at that property while we're still doing our code enforcement activities, but instead of waiting until we go through our abandoned property, our dangerous building process, at that point, it's a long process and the property's been sitting there. And this is proactive, hopefully, in addressing some of these housing issues. So in that context, it's an alternative to our city's dangerous building abatement process. The Missouri Neighborhood Preservation Act is actually a funding program. It's a tax credit based on the state tax. The state provides tax credits. It doesn't impact the city or local government tax credits. It's purely through the state, and provides an incentive for rehabilitation and construction of homes in designated areas, and those designated areas are based on census tracts and household incomes in those areas. Where the lower the household income, but once it reaches or goes below a certain threshold, it becomes an eligible area where then entities like the Community Development Corporation, which is a nonprofit like Builders Development Corporation, can then, through the Abandoned Property Act, acquire the property, or a homeowner can do this too, can purchase it, and then apply to the state for tax credits to help offset the cost. And where this really helps is on a market condition, where the value of the home, investing in the home to either build new or rehab a home, results in a value that's higher than the market value, the residential housing prices or value in that area. That tax credit could be a gap financing and bring that price back down to where then it's a viable home for somebody to buy. This process is a competitive application process. The state has application requests once a year, and then it's competitive, and then they award. So this is not a guarantee thing, but it's something we're working with Builders Development Corporation to pursue. And this goes back to, instead of the city continually having to fund out of our general budget or our general fund in our budgeting, this can help supplement our funds with outside money in a sense through the state. So possible future tools include some of the other things we're looking at are neighborhood meetings. I know that's been one of the issues you as a board talked about. On a staff level, we've heard you. We're working on that. And later, well, not later this year, but in 2015, we hope to come back to you with some more information on that, on some things along that line that we're working on. In the past, it's been discussed, the rental licensing and inspection program. That's up to you. If you the majority of you so direct us, we will look into that further. We do have information on that are those types of programs. And then we're continually looking or attending some training or through whatever means, finding out that there seems to be additional programs that we anticipate will come across that we're just not aware of today. So we'll continue to look for those as we move forward. So to wrap things up, the challenges that going back to those challenges I talked about, the magnitude of the code problems, the housing plan will help us get a better understanding of our housing issues and the magnitude of those issues in Raytown. The inability of some property owners to resolve their code issues, that Brush with Kindness program will help address that. The lost property tax revenues that we're seeing because of abandoned properties or where we tear down a house and it becomes a vacant property. The Missouri Abandoned Property Act and Neighborhood Preservation Act will help address that. And then on the ongoing cost to the city as well as our taxpayers for property maintenance, again, the Abandoned Property Act and Neighborhood Preservation Act will help with helping address that. None of those things are overnight things, but are more of a long-term solution that will help incrementally address those issues. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. President? Mr. Van Buster.
This, excuse me, Brush with Kindness program, how would it be determined as to who actually needs assistance or who doesn't need assistance? Who would be determining that?
The intent there is to that would be Habitat for Humanity's role to determine that. We don't want, as a staff, we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're enforcing a code on somebody and then they're telling us, oh, I don't have the financial means, and it puts us in a difficult position to have to make that determination. We're looking to Habitat for Humanity to do that. The city of Gladstone, and talking with them on their code enforcement and neighborhood or housing issues, they have a very similar program partnering with Habitat for Humanity on that role, and they said it works very well. In this year's, next fiscal year's budget, there is a cost to the city to partner with with Habitat for Humanity on that. We budgeted $15,000 to supplement their costs on that, on materials and other things that they will run into that, and we're hoping that they will be able to pull in donations to help with the program as well.
Okay, so the $15,000 then is not going to the Builders Development Corporation?
Not in the Brush with Kindness program. It would be, we don't have an agreement at this time with Habitat for Humanity, but we would look, we're in discussions, as I mentioned.
So is this two separate amounts of $15,000 we're talking about?
Yes.
15,000 to Habitat for Humanity and 15,000 to Builders, if we make that agreement with them, to the Builders Development Corporation.
Are you referring to the other agenda item tonight?
Okay, so it'll be 30,000 yearly?
No, when you're referring to the funds to Builders Development Corporation, are you referring to the other agenda item?
Well, I'm referring to both, really.
That is, where were you coming from?
Okay, well, you're talking about the given, okay. Well, the information we have and what we're going to discuss later is related to $15,000 a year going to the Builders Development Corporation. Is that correct? Where that's going to come up for discussion tonight.
That relates to our NSP3 program, and that's the program income coming through the NSP3 program.
Okay.
The
right, and so this is
that dollar amount actually would be much more than 15,000 because that's program income when homes are sold.
Okay, that's out of our taxpayers' pockets yearly?
No, that is pure. That is the revenue when a home is rehabbed or built new, and then it gets sold. The sale price minus the net revenue from that sale will on that agenda item will come through, and I can explain that later.
Yeah, I would suggest.
Well, it's certainly related and tied into this.
They're two different programs.
Hold on 1 second. Let's take that up, Mr. Van Buster. Okay, that's agenda item number 4. We want to talk about
whether it's Habitat for Humanity, that's who we're talking to right now. It may end up being somebody else, but that's who we're talking about because we know they do that. They serve that role in other communities.
And is that through the Truman Heartland Foundation, or is that totally?
No,
Is that
it
related?
has nothing to do with Truman Heartland
Nothing to
Foundation.
do
It's
with
the Truman Heritage Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, all right. Under new tools, you mentioned transfer of ownership to the courts. But that's through state law that was available to us. So we're not talking about purchasing the property. Are we talking about confiscation of a personal property, or what are we talking about?
No, it's on an abandoned property when someone, like 8605, I'll use that as an example. If someone is just totally walked away from a property and it's abandoned, a nonprofit entity can apply to the circuit court to take for receivership of that property, which gives them, granted by the court, gives that nonprofit entity temporary ownership of that property to fix up that house or the buildings on that property. And then once that work is done, then the owner has an opportunity to come back and pay for whatever the cost that's been invested in that property, pay it back. And they have a period of time to do that. If they don't do that, then that property becomes property of the receiver and is sold to the market value.
So again, that would be the Builders Development Corporation that would be doing that, is that correct?
That's who we're working with too. It requires a nonprofit, so we as the city cannot do that. We the city would not own the property.
No, it's a nonprofit organization, but they do have paid personnel, right? There are people who
Yes.
make a living from
Yes.
running that organization, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Sir, Ms. Belson.
I'm really glad to see a lot of these new tools and different things that will allow more revitalization of housing. You know, we in Ward 3 have been able to do that with the different houses that have been built, you know, torn down, built, and sold. And so that's really been a positive effect for Ward 3. And I really like this Fresh with Kindness because it'll allow a lot of those older adults or sometimes families that are just struggling and don't have the means to fix it up when the codes come calling. So I think it'd be a great partnership to be able to do that and to be able to fix up those houses and kind of improve the neighborhood as it goes. Plus, you're helping people. So I think that's one of our bottom lines. But thank you.
Mr. Asian.
Yeah, John, the new tools you're talking about, specifically the Missouri Abandoned Housing Act and the Neighborhood Preservation Act, how new are those?
I'm not sure when they were adopted by the state. Eric Berg from Builders Development Corporation is actually here for our future, for the upcoming agenda item, the amendment to our agreement. I don't know if Eric would know that or.
Don't answer unless you want to go to the microphone, please. We can't hear you.
I can do that. Absolutely do that.
Please give us your name and address, please.
Yes, Eric Berg. I'm with Builders Development Corporation. Currently live at 7520 Crisp right here in Raytown. All of these things are near and dear to me. The Neighborhood Preservation Act has been around for at least 5 years. I believe it goes back to 2008. It may be older, but that's the knowledge that I have right now. I believe the Abandoned Housing Act is from around the same time. Now, the Abandoned Housing Act is a tool. Each state seems to have their own. It's not a federal statute, but they're pretty standard across the country. Missouri has one, Kansas has one. I would say on it, it's as John has depicted, it's a multifaceted tool. You're looking for a nonprofit that can use it, that can come in. It has to be a community-based nonprofit. Builders Development Corporation, because we were set up uniquely to work all over Metro Kansas City, especially in inner ring suburbs like Raytown. We can come in, we can file suit in the court for a problem property. Most often it ends up with said nonprofit obtaining the temporary ownership of the property and doing the renovations and other things that need to be done. However, sometimes it turns out to be a great tool to encourage property owners that you thought were absentee, vacant, or otherwise missing in action to get things done themselves. We actually have a case that was concluded early this year in the western part of the city of Independence. It was a problem property. It had been a problem property for the city of Independence for a number of time. A deck had actually collapsed and some people had gotten severely injured, and I believe one death. They had done all that they could as far as code enforcement, and so it had been on their radar. We were rehabbing a house in that area. We saw the problems with it. It was very obvious. Problems with the roof, problems in the walls, and the owner appeared to be absentee. So because we're a community-based nonprofit, we filed suit with through Western Missouri Legal Aid. They, as part of their whole process, they have to try and chase down anybody and everybody. And it turned out in that case, they actually did find the property owner. He was not absentee. And he showed up very quickly when it was very clear that there was a community organization that felt his property was a danger. And that he was claiming somebody was renting it out and living there even though he had no electricity or running water in the place. He came around very quickly. And we did not end up getting that property. We were not awarded it because he came around and he spent what was necessary to bring it up to city code and make it a safe and livable place. So.
Thank you very much. I asked the question because in our ward, of course, problems like this are the ones we hear most frequently about because it take a long time to resolve. I do appreciate you giving us an update on or an education on some of these properties. And I know, without being specific, John, for example, like the property on 64th and Sterling, they've been abandoned for 5 or 6 years. They take a long time because you have to wait, what, 3, 4 full years before the property tax is, and then, so it goes on and on and on. And this one's been abandoned for 5 or 6 years, I think. And there were others too. So it's good for us to be able to speak with our constituents a little more intellectually, because when you don't have any answers, they can't understand why something will be vacant for 5 or 6 years. Another question I have for you is, do you, I mean, we have a program in place. Do you track, I know you track, or you try to track the properties, but when they actually turn over, for example, the one referred to as the Boxwell House, I think you understand that one easiest, but 5 or 6, 7 years it was vacant. When it turns over, are you tracking how, or, I mean, who would we go to as an Alderman to find out, other than just walking up to the door and finding out who's doing the work on it? Is this something that you're involved in?
Depends on the nature of the work, the extent of the work being done. If it's something that requires a construction permit, we would know that. If some work doesn't require a construction permit because it's cosmetic or just relatively minor work, even though the appearance and impact may not be minor, but under construction code it may be minor, that doesn't require a permit, so we wouldn't necessarily know who's doing the work. If the change in ownership occurs, we obtain our information just as if anybody else, the public can obtain it through Jackson County tax records is what we were, that's our, we have to rely on that as our source for property ownership information. We do have, along with the finance department, we do work with Jackson County so that we try to minimize that time frame from the time something is recorded to where it shows up on the computer system to where we find that information out. And our working relationship in that regard with Jackson County has gotten better over the last few years, where it used to be several months, where now that time has been minimized. I'm not saying it's the same day or necessarily the same week, but it's usually a few weeks at most. So.
Or if you have a lien on the property, I'm assuming that once we start mowing the lawns, that property now has a lien on it?
initial work order, our contractor, the city's contractor goes out and takes care of whatever the issue is, the work that needs to be done. They then send us the bill for that work. The finance department sends a bill to the property owner, and they have 30 days to pay that bill. If it's not paid, then the finance department sends Jackson County, files a lien on that property through Jackson County.
And then the lien would be foreclosed when the house is sold. I mean, if it's an abandoned property, obviously there's no property.
And that can take years. So I'm actually in the process of trying to find out what is the total dollar value of liens based on our work orders that we have. I don't know that answer, and I'm just curious on how much is the city owed for all these work orders. I don't have that answer.
And that question I'm asking is on this specific property, because it's been abandoned for so long, and because we did not know where the owner was, and it was, what, 5 or 6 years,
and
taxes overdue. If exactly when you knew someone took possession of it, and this construction's major, then do you follow up and find out who bought it, how they got it?
We don't get involved in that level. It's somebody buys it, that we do that as a good thing. If the previous property owner has been maintaining it, usually if it's sold, that's a good thing. Now, I would like to point out on the liens over time, when we have multiple work orders and multiple liens filed, those keep adding up incrementally to the point where they can put a property where it's just not reasonable. You can't buy it because the liens, the value, what you're paying for it exceeds the value of the property. And so it gets somebody upside down. We haven't run into that yet, but that's a potential issue that we could see, and that's all driven by property values in the neighborhood in which that house is located.
Okay, and I appreciate that, because I did not, as many times as I go by the house, stop and question the people, because I assumed that your department already knew what was going on. I kind of wish I had it now, I probably should, and would even recommend to other aldermen, because it doesn't sound like we specifically track them intentionally, unless...
We on abandoned properties that we know of that are repeat offenders or repeat offending properties, we have our code enforcement officers, we have discussed, and they are supposed to drive by there on those properties on a routine, regular, reoccurring basis, primarily because of the long grass and weeds, so that we're not reacting to a complaint coming in. We're monitoring it and following up on that. And I'm not saying that in the past we've done a great job with that, but that is something we have put a great emphasis on in the past year to start doing that.
And I thought about that. What's the flag that went up was, I think it's, what is the length of time a canister can remain in the driveway? Is it 30 or 90 days, 60 days?
When you say canister,
Well, I mean, like the big full driveway canister, the dumpster.
I believe it's either 7 or 14 days.
I know this one was there for 4 months, and that's why I just assumed that if the code enforcement officer is going by on a regular basis.
Well, if they're doing construction work, I don't want to get hung up on specific code questions, but it could be, there are exceptions to that, like if they have a construction permit and they're doing work, that there could be a longer period of time.
Okay.
Yeah, are you out there?
Well, I know that. One other thing I would like to say that you asked for, I know that Alderman Kramer, as well as myself, have a strong interest in the rental licensing and inspection. At least from our standpoint, we would like to see you at least look into it. I can't speak for the rest of the board, but I do feel that I can speak for Alderman Kramer.
That we would look for the direction of the board as a whole on that issue. The one thing I can say on rental licensing, in some research we've done over the past 6-8 months, Raytown is a fourth-class city. We are not allowed by statute to do rental licensing.
We have to wait.
We can do rental inspections, but we are not allowed to do rental licensing.
Okay, but we could do inspections. Okay. And that's something we should bring forth as a discussion item. Thank you.
One thing, if I could, back up on the Abandoned Property Act, or Abandoned Housing Act rather, just an example, 8605 Elm. Builders Development Corporation has filed a petition with the court to get receivership of that property. The reason this is benefit of that program, of the Abandoned Housing Act. If we were to tear that house down under our dangerous building abatement process, it becomes a vacant lot. To build a house on that lot, is going to be approximately $150,000 to build a house. That's kind of a standard cost or ballpark cost. Builders Development Corporation has looked at property values in that neighborhood, and when I say neighborhood, I don't know the specific area, but in that general area, the sale prices of homes in that area is roughly, don't quote me on this, but approximately $100,000. So to build a home at $150,000 when your homes around it aren't selling for that, that's why properties become vacant lots and stay vacant lots. The flip of that, if they can go through receivership and get ownership of that property, they can rehab that house for approximately, they have an estimate to rehab that house for $70,000. Put $70,000 into that house and then turn around and sell it to an owner occupied for somewhere between around $100,000, and they profit. There's a margin, I say profit, but of roughly $30,000 there that then can be used to go back into housing in Raintown. Versus, and that's, I use that as an example because that shows, we tore down the house, the city tore down the house a few years back on Stark. That house is still a vacant, or that property is still a vacant lot today. It probably will stay that way because the housing values around it drive whether or not it makes sense to build a home or a vacant lot. So.
Okay, one more question, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, excuse me. The house on Stark, it caught on fire for one minute on that house.
Right.
Okay. Let's get it on 8605. It's just been abandoned. Well, there's still, I won't get any farther than that. You know. But there is something about that house. We went through a lot of discussion with this, John. And, excuse me, is the foundation on that house is a good foundation.
Correct.
Now, there's other foundations which we'll discuss tonight, at homes tonight.
Right.
Now, our homes that should be coming down.
That's correct.
All right. And you had mentioned something about homes beside it, this and that, bringing down the value of the homes, this and that. Well, by bringing down a couple of these homes tonight, that we'll be discussing tonight, it's partly about the value of the homes that's around it.
Sure.
But I know what you're talking about on, I do thank you for letting me work with you on this, on these new tools and this and that. Okay. The brush with kindness. Okay, I noticed Mr. Van Busker was talking about it. It will also work off of donations, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That
Donations to Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, to Habitat. Okay. John, on this dangerous building process, you know, we've been working with this. About how long does it take to go through this process? In fact, how many steps?
Each house is different, and I say that, you raised a good example. The house on Stark caught on fire.
Yeah.
When there's a house that catches on fire, we have to wait for the insurance company to go through that process. Easily takes 6 months, and sometimes longer, sometimes less, but usually we've waited, we've learned over the years. We used to just wait for the insurance company to allow them the time. On some properties, it's taken over a year. I think in Alderman Greensboro, a few years ago, we had a house. It was easily over a year. And we got to a point where we just said that we had to set a deadline to the insurance company and to the property owner and let them know. And so now what we've done is we set a deadline right up front, and usually that's at 6 months from the date of the fire. Is that
my last question. Okay, there's an individual comes in off the street here and comes into the city hall, okay? They're looking to find some information out, say like the house there on that town, okay? About what exactly the procedures they need to go through about possibly looking at investing into this house, something like that. Can you let them know about these programs itself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Some of the programs homeowners are not eligible for because they haven't been nonprofits. But other programs, yeah, they could, yeah, absolutely. We can let them know.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Very good. Anything else, John, you want to add?
I have nothing further. Thank you for your time.
Almost 45 minutes for 50 minutes on this topic. Very good topic. We'll do it again. We've got some other issues to deal with here as well. Thank you, John. Next up is the study session regarding the Super Splash USA. And Katie Miley. Katie, thanks for coming out tonight. Katie, will you be talking a little bit about your role and responsibilities there at Super Splash as well?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Hello.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Katie Langley, and I was the aquatic supervisor this year at Super Splash USA, and this was my assistant aquatic supervisor, Ali Bluki, and we were asked tonight to kind of share how our summer went this past summer at Super Splash. So, can we begin?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll probably share them. This summer we kind of debuted a few new programs. One of the things that we really did to try to boost up not only attendance but also community involvement was our water aerobics program. What it basically was a program that was held on Monday and Wednesday mornings from 9 to 9:50, and it was just a great opportunity for people in the community to come on in, really get to use our amenities in a different way, as well as kind of bring a different group of patrons to the water park. Unfortunately, because we had kind of a late start, we didn't have the maximum attendance that we would like to, but hopefully, if we are open next summer, we'd like to continue to increase attendance and increase this program as the patrons that did attend really did enjoy the experience, and it was pretty popular with some of our, I guess you could say, older patrons.
Another thing we did this summer was obviously working anywhere employees want to be appreciated and they want to feel welcomed and that they're doing a good job. So we developed a Mondo Matey. If you guys do not know, Mondo is our mascot at Super Splash. He's the whale that you see everywhere. So we had a Mondo Matey of the Month program. Every 2 weeks we would recognize 2 lifeguards, 2 pool attendants, concession workers, and we would do some of our merchandise this summer that we did for promotions. They would get that. We would also do some social media posts to recognize them for how much we appreciated them. And obviously with the younger generation, social media is huge right now. And it's a great way to kind of push them and make them want to be successful throughout the whole summer.
These are just a couple of, these are some of our photos of some of our model maybes. Again, as Katie previously stated, we had a lot of success with the program. We found that it encouraged our employees to really work harder and hopefully achieve this status. It was a really fun way to kind of really interact with our employees as well as motivate them to continue to push through the entire summer.
Another thing that we did this summer, which was really neat, is we actually had a marketing intern, and that helped out a lot for us that we were able to do the pool management side of it. And so what we did is we had a college student this past summer that was in marketing and graphic design, and so she was an intern at Super Splash. So that was an awesome opportunity to have an intern. So we did a big boost on social media. Obviously with social media, a lot of times it's free, so it's a great way to advertise Super Splash, what's going on. So we hit it hard with Instagram contests. Obviously with high school and middle school, Instagram is the thing right now. So we had weekly Instagram contests, and we would give out free passes for those that won for that week. And so here are a couple of our Instagram winners, and each week it was a different theme.
One of the great things about using Instagram and Facebook to publicize the water park is, as Katie said, it was free, and also it reaches a whole different, I guess you could say, market of individuals throughout the entire city. Not only are people in Braytown having access to these materials, but we're also reaching patrons from Lee Summit, Independence, Overland Park. It's a really great way to get us out throughout the entire metropolitan area.
So with having our intern, she was able to do a lot of special events this summer and promotions. We also wanted to do some giving back to Raytown. So we're going to quickly go over some of the events we did this summer. We partnered up with REAP. Twice we did a canned food drive, twice with REAP, and then at the end of the summer we also did a backpack drive that we partnered up with REAP to donate to that organization. So here are some of the pictures with the staff. There's some of the graphic arts that our intern did that we would post on social media throughout the community.
One of our other pushes this summer was really to do events that would bring people to the pool, that made Super Splash a destination. The first one we did was our summer kickoff luau, and I think it was one of our most fun and most popular events. What we did at this is we had a designated time throughout the day, and from like 2 to 5 p.m., for example, or in this situation 2 to 4 p.m., different guests would come in, and we would have different games and activities going on throughout the entire park. It really got individuals excited about coming to Super Splash, as well as kind of showed all the different things we have to offer. We really tried to do things that engaged the entire family, so we did things that the youngest patrons could enjoy, like handing out stickers and having fun music, to things that some of our older people could enjoy, like for Father's Day we did father-child or parent-child relays and stuff like that.
So another event we did at Super Splash was Father's Day. We ended up doing half-off admissions for dads. We also, one of the big giveaways we did was we did free Royals family 4-pack tickets. So that was a great way to bring the families to Super Splash, and again, throughout the whole day we had different events. All of the management staff dressed up in ties and
Okay, and then another one of our events that was pretty popular was Superhero Weekend. And for Superhero Weekend, what we did, it's pretty self-explanatory, is we had a superhero-themed weekend full of fun events. We had a photo booth, we had games that were superhero-themed. Basically what we did for these events was we found creative ways to give back to the community, because Super Splash is a community experience. So through these different games and different activities, we drew in patrons as well as showed them what Super Splash had to offer and what fun and exciting things we could do at the facility.
And then another event we did is we did a 4th of July event, so you can see our staff. It took us a while to spell out USA, but we did it.
And kind of going off of that photo, a lot of our staff really enjoyed these events, and it got them excited about coming to work. So when they found out we were having an event like Superhero Weekend, we had staff members asking if they could wear towels around their neck while they were handing out their lifeguards. We had staff members putting Mondo tattoos on their faces, kind of just getting into the spirit and getting into what Super Splash really has to offer.
Another activity we did was we sponsored a Missouri Care, which was a free event hosted by the healthcare group. We had 1,500 patrons that came to Super Splash for free for the time of 3 to 7, and working with Missouri Care, we've gone to other water parks throughout. Each year they go somewhere else, and they wrote us the nicest thank you note saying that it was the most well-organized staff. Everything just ran so smoothly, so that was always good to hear positive feedback from that. We're just going to go really quickly. Another activity we did, we tried to do 2 big ones a month, so we did a pirate weekend. So just very similar. Some pictures from that. And then we also, at the end, we did USA kind of Olympic type. And it was neat because we were able to reuse a lot of the stuff that we already had.
One of the new things that we really tried to push this year were Super Splash promotional materials. As Katie previously mentioned, we did give some of our promotional materials to lifeguards as incentives for winning Mondo Lady of the Month. Really popular and great ones that we had were the sunglasses and the beach balls. They're cheap and expensive, fun ways to kind of get the Super Splash USA name out there.
And I don't know how many times throughout the summer that I would see people at Price Drop or whatever wearing the sunglasses with Super Splash USA on the side of it. So
this summer with social media, like we said, we really had a giant push, and we were very successful in our push. At the beginning of the season, we had 6 followers on Instagram. Towards the middle of the summer, we had 79 followers on, I apologize, on Twitter. Towards we had 79, and at the end of the season, our goal was over 100, and I believe we reached that. On Facebook, we made our goal. We ended up beating Adventure Oasis in likes on Facebook, which was our ultimate objective for the summer. And we really just kind of pushed to get the word out there.
The neat thing about Facebook is it shows you a lot of stuff about who's looking at your page, the growth. So you can see on this chart up here, starting on May, that was how many likes we had, and you can obviously see the growth throughout the summer. And that was not even right now. This was, I believe that was at the beginning of August. So you guys can see how many followers that we had. And here are some reviews that people put on Facebook.
Just to kind of highlight some of them, from the top to the bottom, you can see that people are really enjoying everything that Super Splash has to offer. They're impressed with our staff. They're saying that their children are having a great time at our facility. They are really impressed with our swim lessons, as well as the quality of instructors that we have at swim lessons. As you can see, that they found our instructors to be very professional and experienced, and overall, we had a really successful summer with them.
Okay. We also did a survey, and I just picked 3 questions you kind of can see, and that's the thing that I would like to see with Super Splash is we need to get some more people in there. So that's kind of, you guys can see kind of the graph. I know it's kind of small numbers, but we did a graph kind of getting an idea. About 3% came daily during the time of our survey. About 8% came weekly, 25% monthly. You can see 15% yearly, and at that time there was 45% that it was their first visit. Here's another thing to look at. So if you guys kind of want to see where everyone's coming from, this is a graph that kind of breaks down the percentage of the different cities surrounding Raytown, and there's a chart to go along with that.
The third question we did was what draws you to Super Splash? And as you can see, there are a lot of different things that bring people to Super Splash, but one of the things that I think is really important that you also need to know when looking at this is the previous chart that shows the different groups of people from different areas. So Super Splash is also bringing people to the Raytown community. They're bringing their money here, they're spending their time here, which is really good in keeping our community alive. A lot of people are coming to Super Splash because of the proximity, the sun, the pools, how friendly and fun the environment ultimately is, as well as the amenities we do offer, like birthday parties and swim lessons.
That is it.
Ms. Loki, and I gotta tell you, you had a lot of excitement with what's going on. I'm sure that helped to why the attendance was up this year. So nice presentation, Ms. Loki. You should be very proud of your daughter. Questions for Katie?
Sure. Yeah.
I'd like, before we go, I'd like to not to go beyond what, let's just talk about this, because we also have a Super Splash issue on the agenda, so don't forget that as well, as we talk.
First off, I'm glad it's on the beach. The promotions you were discussing, I noticed that you had quite a few of them going on this year. Was anything used with the newspapers or anything like that?
Yes, our intern would contact the newspapers. She also would print out those flyers you guys did see, and we would post them throughout the Raytown area at John's Apple Markets, Price Shoppers, libraries, stuff like that.
Okay, that's good. It's great it's going on social media and everything else today, and you guys are doing great work. You really are. So that's all I want to say.
Mr. Lightfoot.
So my question was on the promotions as well, which looked awesome. That was a lot of great pushes. Did you track what type of increase or surge in attendance you would get when you would do one of those type of promotions?
We did not, and the one thing about obviously a pool in the summer, and that's the one thing we learned towards the end of the summer, is we would spend all this time on an activity, well, it might rain. So we pushed it into, instead of one day, we would do a weekend activity. And honestly, this summer wasn't, I can't remember how many days were past 100, to be completely honest with you. But people did get excited about it, and we learned from it. So we learned to do weekend events instead of one day, because we didn't want to waste all that time and energy planning, and then it was a rain out, and we had a really small crowd that day.
Well, I love the enthusiasm, and the marketing techniques are pretty awesome. That's definitely well above what we done to market it in the past, so good job.
Mr. Hurts.
Again, thanks for coming today and showing all these things that you showed to the park board. I'd just like to encourage all the aldermen up here to attend the park board meetings and as they make suggestions for Super Splash and for our Parks Department to go to those park board meetings. So it doesn't have to be relayed through a system. I think it would be great if you went there and they really are a nice and open group over there. I'm sure they would love to hear from all of you. I'd sure like to encourage that as being a good voice for all the ideas that usually come off of this DS. But thank you for the great job. And, on a marketing budget of about $5, I think you did pretty good. So,
Being a school teacher, you learn how to make stuff out of trash.
you did very good.
Mr. Green.
Thank you. You like my bottle there?
That's better than the water bottle, yes, sir.
I just, excuse me, I guess echoing everybody else, my biggest concern when I was asked to serve on the Super Splash Committee that we formed a year ago was the fact that it seemed like that the marketing with it was stagnant, and you have made it come alive. It is very nice to see that we're doing all these activities, all these events, and that, excuse me, and that we're using social media to its max, or I won't say max, we're using social media to its potential, and that's huge. Especially we're saving money for the Super Splash, we're saving money for the parks, we're saving money for the city, and we're getting the maximum potential that we can get by basically free advertising through social media. So I just wanted to commend you ladies on that. Thanks.
The whole social media thing's catching on. I think it's really going to come out good. Facebook, I mean, I've heard about Facebook. Ms. Nelson?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's catching on.
I just wanted to thank you. I really appreciate all the work that y'all did and thinking outside the box with your events and trying to come up with different things. And I think it paid off because people were acknowledging and coming to Super Splash. And as anything, you learn as you go, as like you said, but I really appreciate your enthusiasm and kind of that that you guys got this year with promoting it perhaps a different way. And the intern thing, that was a very good, smart move.
Excellent. Anything else? Mr. Mock? Again?
Yeah, Katie, there's something I need to tell you. I had to talk to your father today. And he said, told me to let you know that you need to take 3 more days off.
Yes, as former aquatics director of the Old Raytown Swim Club, and having used that pool for 40 years, I really applaud such a creative team for what you did. It seemed to me, and I can't tell you that I'm really an expert on the parks, but I would bet that that's the most comprehensive program put together for any single park that addresses a large number of individual groups, such as the handicapped or whatever they have, the older people too. Really good. Also, the fistful of free tickets that we gave away were specifically to be targeted to give to people that weren't going to the park, which I did. And in every single case that I gave those tickets, those people came back and had a very, very praising response to the park because they liked it. They liked the guards there. They liked the place. They all attended to go back again. Wanted to share that with you because I thought that was a great thing you did. And then lastly, I think there's probably a lot of other ideas out there that we can do for next year. I mean, it's obvious that you're very creative, and I got imagine you probably have more ideas. So thank you very much, and that park's very special to me personally. Thank you.
Ladies, again, I think you've heard the group, and we're very much in favor of what's happening. Certainly the excitement that you both bring to it. I appreciate you coming out tonight. You might stick around and ask some questions. Come up there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we're going to begin the legislative session at this time. We only have the one item on the consent agenda. I'll seek approval.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion is made and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the minutes on it. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the vote, please.
Joffrey?
Yes.
Alderman Asia?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot?
Yes.
Alderman Joffrey?
I already said yes. I'm sorry, you
I thought you said pass.
No, I said yes earlier. Sorry, that's why I'm confused. I'm like,
Okay, sorry. Ordinance is complete. That's quick for the reading of item number 2 under the regular agenda, please.
Resolution authorizing and approving additional funds through change order 2 of Line Window Construction, Inc. for the White Oak West Line A Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project in an amount not to exceed $53,103.50 for a total contract amount not to exceed $157,992.50.
Okay, very good. City Engineer Jason, anything to add?
This is the sewer project on 83rd Street, change order number 2. We're pretty much finished. We're doing the final quantities now. There will be another change order number 3 and final. But this is change order 2 for some extra work that was done for 4 line items that overran, and then 3 new line items that we added to the project for things in the field that came up that we had to address. Any questions?
Questions or answers? First,
I would assume that if all change orders were at the going rate of the original project, and this was, since we bought more pipe and connected to more people, it added more cost to the project.
Yeah, so, yeah. I don't have the final numbers yet, but so far this has increased. The first change order was roughly 13,000, and this one is 53,000.
Has these change orders already included repaving and detour on 82nd Street?
No, that will come out of our annual overlay contract.
But will it be somewhat paid by the sewer since some of the deterioration on there? Or,
Yeah,
or is that not decided yet? If
the cost to do it during our annual overlay was cheaper than to do it through the sewer project. We chose to go it that way.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Lightfoot.
So I'm not sure if this is where the funds come in or not, but a lot of the manhole covers along 83rd Street that I think they need raised. You know, there's a lot of those water main or sewer covers that are pretty low. So when you hit them going, 30 miles an hour, 35, it's a pretty bumpy ride.
We have addressed the sanitary sewer manholes. The contractor's been doing that over the last week or 2. The only thing left out there are the water valves, the smaller, like 8-inch lids.
So the larger diameter lids, the ones that are in place, like that I drove over today, that's as good as they're going to get.
Yeah, everything should have already been fixed. Do you know exactly where this was?
Oh, quite a few spots along 83rd Street there from, obviously from Raytown Road up to about Stark.
Right.
I mean, that's a long way. I would have to come up with the exact intersections. But there's about 3 spots there.
Yeah, it's probably the water valves. All the sewer lids should be fine.
I'll get some locations.
Ms. Emerson.
You're saying that there's going to be another change order?
Yes.
Do you know approximately what the cost of that
I
is
do
going
not. to
be?
There will be some pluses and minuses. Some items were underrun, and some items will be some more overruns, but I don't have the exact figure yet. I'll bring that to the board next month.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
First off, I'd like to thank citizens along 83rd Street for being so patient. Second is some of the grading was an issue. I know these aren't in, but I am going to ask about some of the grading behind White Oak Creek. Has that been properly done?
Yeah,
now?
it has been done again.
has everybody's equipment been removed? Because I did notice the backhoe, they're off 83rd Street, concrete, that's concrete.
The
The
gas company is still working
Okay.
in that area, but they still have a couple open holes and some equipment
Okay,
projects.
there's some deteriorating lids on these catch basins, I've noticed that. Isn't that along there also that it should be looked at? In fact, some have been replaced, some haven't.
Yeah, there was a couple they broke that we did replace. There are some
These
other.
look like they've been chipped during construction.
Yeah, there's some other lids that we did not do, but.
Okay, and the sewer lids, yes, some of them are down too low. If you just recheck those, make sure we get those up so we don't get a lot of
Yeah.
complaints like we had on
I will look at it again tomorrow.
Thank you. All right.
Mark, you want to offer a motion while you're there?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll offer a motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we got a motion kinda in a second. So with that, we're still in discussion. Any further discussion before we vote on this item? Mr. Van Busker.
Okay, so we're at approximately $3,158,000 right now, is that correct?
Correct.
The project. And we'll have a third change order, but you're not sure how much.
Yes.
With the two change orders we've had thus far, how much of this could have been anticipated prior to the project being done with?
Some things probably could. A lot of it was, not in the plans, but some of the aging storm sewers, like the water main adjustment, number 38, that the water district redid the water mains about a year or so prior to this project. And as we were putting in the new storm sewer, we noticed there was a conflict, and it was easier to relocate the water main than to redo the storm sewer system. Item 39, there was 2 homes on the north side of the road that probably should have been in the plans. We should have known ahead of time that their service lines went all the way across 83rd. But we did not have that in the project as well. But it should have been known, but it wasn't. And then item 40 was the storm sewer pipe. Our existing storm sewers out there were metal pipes, and this one was the bottom of it completely rusted out. So while we had the street removed before it was paved, we wanted to have that pipe replaced. So that's what that was for. But I think when the project was designed, we didn't necessarily investigate all the storm sewers to see what condition they were in.
What additional work are you anticipating needs to be done that's going to call for this third?
Mainly, the third one will be the final quantities, overruns and overruns. There won't be any more additional work. It will just be bringing the project to the final quantities.
And I have to agree with Alderman Mock and Alderman Lightfoot. There definitely needs to be some additional work done with those manhole covers. I've been across that, and you can't go across them at the speed limit. It creates a problem.
That's you need to drive slower.
And is that going to add additional money? Is that something that's...
No, the contractor has been doing that. It's just what they already should have done in the first place. They're doing that free of charge.
Many of those are in the westbound lane, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Jason, on that same point, what was the contingency that we allowed on the project?
Contingency? We didn't have any contingency item.
We had no contingency on this budget.
Like in the
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Asher,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Okay, item number 3, please.
a resolution authorizing and approving the emergency purchase of a traffic control box and components and amending the fiscal year 2014 budget in the amount of $19,125.
We have our interim public works director, Mr. Jim Melvin, to address this.
Thank you, Mayor. The project we're talking about here was caused by a traffic accident where a motorist collided with, among other things, our traffic control box for that signal. The impact from the vehicle was such that he contacted, I believe, another 5 vehicles, and the impact to our control box bent the control box so that it was not sealed and protect the innards from water. So we ended up having to replace the control box and a number of the internal components. The crew was able to cobble it back together for 24 to 48 hours, but that was about all they could really guarantee that it would run. So the damages to it pretty much had to be replaced as a total box. And we were able to do that in about 48 to 72 hours. So that's the basis for the
Before the question gets asked, does the insurance, does the individual that struck these, does the insurance cover this, or Ms. Henry?
There were 4 vehicles involved and this traffic box, so the funds will be dispersed amongst all the parties. So I filed the claim, and once we know what our share is, then it will come back to us.
Perfect, okay, so we will have some assistance hopefully for the insurance company. Okay, questions for Mr. Moen? Mr. Asher?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Asher's got the motion to approve, second by Ms. Nelson. Further discussion before we vote?
I appreciate the fact that this was brought before us because since it was an emergency purchase, it wouldn't have had to come before us. But I do appreciate the fact that you're letting us know about it. And thank you.
Actually, the emergency policy requires us to notify you as soon as possible. Obviously, we couldn't notify you before we spent the money because we had to get back in service. But we certainly want to make the council, the board of Alderman aware.
Very good. All right, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Asher,
Yes.
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman Ernst,
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Locke,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Okay, item number 4, please.
a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a First Amendment to agreement between the City of Raytown and Builders Development Corporation for professional administrative services.
Mr. Benson, our Development and Public Affairs Director, anything you'd like to add on this, sir?
Yes, briefly. This resolution amends an existing agreement we have in place with Builders Development Corporation that was adopted on April 19th, 2011 as part of our NSP 3 grant for $1.25 million for the purpose of implementing programs excuse me, focused on the rehabbing and demolishing and rebuilding of vacant and foreclosed homes and land in the targeted area right now, as I mentioned earlier tonight, on 59th Street. This grant we partnered with cities of Sugar Creek and Grandview on, and this grant has also helped provide funding to rehab and construct homes in those cities as well. Since that time, all but a few $1,000s of this grant have been expended, and additionally to date, out of the $1.25 million NSP3 grant, the resulting project income has provided $1.7 million in housing rehab in the 3 cities. So the $1.25 million, we've actually been able to leverage another $500,000, or nearly $500,000 in additional housing rehab provide some project income from the sale of the homes in these three cities. The project income is mainly used to purchase additional homes for rehab or for demolition or construction of new homes, and then resale, which then provides additional income to project income. The project income currently is considered to be part of is considered to be part of the grant, and as such is subject to the payment of administrative fees to Mid-America Regional Council in the state of Missouri, Department of Economic Development, to each take an administrative fee out of those project incomes each time a property is sold. This amendment will change future project income from being collected and paid to the city as part of the NSP3 grant program, and instead, through our agreement with Builders Development Corporation, the project income would go to Builders Development Corporation for use in accordance with our reuse plan that will be adopted on December 12th, 2011 as part of our NSP3 grant. The result, if adopted, the Mid-America Regional Council in the state of Missouri will no longer be able to get their administrative fees or take an administrative fee out of the future project income. So that would provide an incremental additional funding that we could then use for further housing, rehab, and construction. So with that, staff is recommending that this amendment be adopted. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, Eric Burke from Builders Development Corporation is here tonight if you have any questions that he can answer as well.
Excellent. Any questions, Mr. Benson? Mr. Van Westberg.
So, in excess of 15,000 a year, that's from the city of Raytown, right?
I'm not sure. The 15,000 requires you as a board to approve it because the grant fund, we're estimating project income will be approximately 400,000 for the year.
Okay.
Which under the purchasing policy, because it exceeds 15,000, the board of aldermen is required to approve that.
All right. Will there be money coming out of the taxpayers' pockets?
No.
Pay for this?
This is all project income from the sale of the homes.
Through the grant?
Actually, it's no longer, it's just the residual of the grant
But
funds.
because of the grant?
Yes.
Okay. Understand. It goes against my grain to have the government at any level involved in the housing business. I think it's, I know the federal government's very involved in that. I know that's where grant monies came from to start with. I know the Mid-America Regional Council is very involved in that. But I have problems with it, and I think it's something we probably should not be involved in as a city. So, just my personal view and something I've always believed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Further discussion. Ms. Emerson?
I like the idea that it's being streamlined and that it will be taken care of it, and there will be, Mark will not be involved, and it will give added funds to do more development in our city, and if the money will go to our city.
Further discussion, Mr. Bach?
Yeah, just a quick question, John. I know this goes back to a few months ago, but is there one house still for sale in Raytown?
There are, actually, I'm going to let Eric Burr here, but he can answer the question, but he can give you the addresses as well of those homes.
Yeah, pardon me for barging in again. There are currently 2 homes for sale in the city of Raytown. One is located at 10613 East 53rd Street, and then the other is 5420 Laurel Avenue. Laurel Avenue is a brand new home. Of course, 10613 is a rehab. It's just a slab-on-grade ranch-style home. They're currently still for sale. Both of them are for sale. However, I just heard today that we actually have somebody who's going to be making an offer on the home on Laurel Avenue.
What
So,
was the sale price on these homes?
and I'm working off the top of my head, so down to exact dollars, I'm not going to go that far. Laurel Avenue, because it's a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home, split level style. I believe that one is at $128,000. And John, if you have it, correct me. And then 10, 6, 13 is, as I said, smaller, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, slab on grade. I believe it's around 100,000. It comes with a fairly nice yard. But yeah, that's where we're at today. And then we've got 2 brand new under construction next door to 10, 6, 13 East 53rd Street. That'll be available in the spring.
Okay. Was it Aaron?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, the sale of these is still limited by income, has to be below a certain threshold in the community, is that?
That's correct. That's part of it.
Now, but Mid-America Regional Council has no involvement now, is that?
They currently do, but if the amendment is adopted, they would no longer have involvement in these funds.
Thank you.
I think it's exciting that the federal government applied money to help housing projects and to improve the residents in our neighborhood. I think it's a wise use of the money. So I certainly want to contradict that. It's been said about this. I'm also proud that the Mid-America Regional Council is involved to make this happen. So you can ask any of the neighbors that surround these properties and ask them if they're happy about what's happened. You can ask any of those on the block about if they're happy with what has happened. The neighborhoods are very pleasant with what has happened to the improvements in there and the property values accordingly. No further discussion? Call the vote, please.
Alderman Hurts.
Yes.
Alderman Nelson.
Yes.
Alderman Mock.
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green.
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot.
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker.
No.
Alderman Asia.
Yes.
Alderman Emerson.
Yes.
All right, with that, we'll ask clerk to perform the reading on item number 5, please.
A resolution authorizing and approving the budget of the Parks and Recreation Department for fiscal year 2015-2016.
Mr. Bode, Parks and Recreation Director, anything you'd like to add on the subject?
Good evening, Mayor Bauer and members of the board. I want to mention that Allie and Katie have over 25 years of pool experience between the two. They've done an outstanding job and improved our attendance this summer. And our revenue went up as well, so I can't thank them enough for all their effort. They put in a tremendous amount of time recruiting and evaluating staff and training staff before the season ever started throughout the summer. So those 2 ladies, along with the other staff, did a fantastic job. On Monday night, the park board approved the park budget that does indeed include the operation of Super Splash in 2015. It does indeed include $50,000 set aside for a park comprehensive study, as well as $75,000 for capital improvements in the park system, and $50,000 for pool improvements as well. I'll be happy to address any questions you have.
Mr. Hurts.
Thank the park board for their longer than usual work on the subject. And I would start with just a motion to approve this project. I know the budget, and it'd be my desire to keep the Super Splash open, obviously.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Hurts, second by Mr. Mock to approve the budget. Into discussion. Mr. Van Busker.
I have a question for Mr. Sharma. Now, this includes an amount of money that would come from the city to assist in those capital improvements. Is that correct? Some $80,000. And if that is correct, where is that money exactly coming from? Where are we going to reduce spending in the budget at some other place?
Before you answer that question, I think I want to make sure that when we say from the city to another department, we are all one. So one department is asking for funds from the general fund or an allowance from the general fund. We are all one. We're not a city and a park department or a city and a police department. We are one. Mr. Sharp.
I understand that,
Mr.
Mr. Mayor, but I'm still speaking. I understand that.
You asked a question.
I did ask a question, but I haven't quite finished my statement since you made yours. The added thing I want to say is that yes, it is a partner city, but it has been separated. It has its own budget. It has, its director is appointed specifically by the park board. It's the park board that sets that budget. Yes, there's greater cooperation than there has been in the past, certainly between the parks department and the rest of the city. But yes, it should certainly be considered as much part of the city as any other department. I agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sharman, would you like to continue, please?
Good evening, Mayor Bauer, Board of Alderman. I think the question you're asking me tonight, whether I have decided where the money is going to come from or not, it just depends how the governing body is going to vote. In the absence of that, I'm not going to contemplate or figure it out where the money is going to come without knowing the vote or the direction given to the staff.
Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Sharman, just because this is kind of complicated for people to understand, and maybe people that are going to see this at home as well, but so Mr. Bogie just suggested that this budget that the park board approved and that's before us tonight has $75,000 in the budget for capital improvements for Super Splash.
In the parks.
In the parks.
In the parks only.
75,000, and then it's got another 50,000 set aside for what specifically?
Parks comprehensive study.
For the parks comprehensive study. So, to Alderman Van Buster's point, is there an additional, the money you described there, is there an additional $80,000 that comes from somewhere in order to make this happen? I'm just trying to make everyone be clear of what Mr. Van Buster's question was. I'm a little mixed up myself.
The repairs required to open Super Splash are estimated at $166,000 for 2015 to open the doors. What the park board has approached the city with is a proposal to cost share that $160,000, $80,000 from parks, $80,000 from the city. As I understand it, that is the recommendation of the park board.
Okay, and that helps with clarity a little bit, just because, as the mayor stated, we are all one city and we're all one entity, but there is money from the park board, and then there is extra money asked for from wherever it comes from. I just wanted to get that clear for people to understand, and for myself to understand.
Mr. Hurts.
Yes, I believe the way we had thought of this was Parks is in very much need of a comprehensive study, not only for what the citizens of this town want, but also the funding for what the citizens of this town want. But rather than close the park and then do a study, the thought was let's find out more detail of what needs to be done.
to help them. So what it will mean if this vote goes affirmative, the budget that you just approved 2 weeks ago, you're asking indirectly to me to come back and amend the budget and find out $80,000, get that approved. And so therefore, there has to be some rethinking, some ideas that we are going to float around with the management team if this goes through, and reduce the budget that you approved 2 weeks ago by $80,000.
Does it require another meeting of this body to approve that prior to November 1st?
That would be an amendment to the budget. No, it is not required because you have already approved the budget. However, it is an amendment that I have to bring into the governing body after the reduction in the budget that was approved 2 weeks ago.
Ms. Belson?
Okay, when Mr. Boji stated his numbers, he stated that there's $50,000 needed for a comprehensive study, correct? Okay, and I do agree with that because we need that and you kind of get the overview there. Then he also stated there's $75,000 for capital improvements in the parks only, correct?
Correct.
Then another $50,000 for pool improvements.
That's in the budget.
Okay, and those are all in your budget.
Correct.
But with this, what we have before us, it's also being asked of the city for the additional $80,000 to come from our general fund, perhaps, because we would have to amend our budget that we just passed 2 weeks ago in order to approve that $80,000. We can approve it today by a yes vote, all those different money suggestions, correct? Because they're all in this document before us.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Okay.
Unless finance, I believe that's correct.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
Mr. Ranger?
From the standpoint of many of my constituents anyway, they see the Parks Department, the Fire Department, the city, the EMS, the Police Department, as a city of Raytown. They don't really see a difference. The people that go to work every day and come home, they pay their taxes, so they see it all as one. Even though it may not exactly be that way, certainly they are all part of what we call Raytown. And this board is just kind of filling in for people that may be watching this on television that don't have the background. But this board is charged with overseeing the total budget of the city for the police department and the park department. And when you came forth with your budget, we actually excluded that when we passed the city's budget. That's why we're back here tonight, just so everybody understands that. And one of the reasons why we did that is because many of the people on this board felt that supervisors is a vital part of the city. And that's why we excluded the park budget for that. That's why we've looked into super PAC. I personally support what we've done here, even if we have to take money from Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. Because there are many people on this board that believe that what we're doing here to preserve this park is necessary. So I do support that. Thank you.
Mr. Green?
I just want to confirm this. Is my understanding correct, though, that even if this board were to negate this today, that essentially the budget would revert to last year's budget where the pool would stay open? Is state law, am I right? Or I just want to be sure.
If, you already approved the city's budget, so that's not a question. But in general, if the governing body failed to approve a budget by a certain date, which in our case, October 31st, then the previous year budget take precedence. So in that regard, the previous year budget included, everything in that budget is moved forward.
Okay. I just want to make sure my understanding is correct. Thanks.
a second. Ms. Dawson, one more.
Yeah. Like I said before, you know, the comprehensive study, capital improvement parks and pool improvements, I can see that. I'm a little hesitant on the 8,000 with cost share in the city, which, you know, this isn't line itemed out. I mean, it is in the other documentation, but in the resolution. And what I want to know is the $80,000 is included in this resolution to be passed tonight. If it is, can it be taken out and then be brought forward at a later time as a separate item?
So, if you look at the park budget, the number Excel sheet that has provided to you, there is nowhere 80,000 is mentioned. Where you find $80,000 is in the Raytown Park Board minutes, October 20th, 2014, as well as the RBA that was provided to you. Okay? So that shows the intent of the park board when they deliver the approval of their budget, keeping the super splash open as the desire of some of the governing body members. So that was presented. However, the numerical numbers of the budget that we're going to approve tonight does not include $80,000. So if you approve the park board budget, it does not have that $80,000 number. However, if you look at their minutes and the RBA, their intent is, and I will read it for the record, when there was under the new business, Michelle Sipes mentioned to approve the fiscal year 2014-15 budget option with super splash open, contingent upon a city park cost share agreement with each party responsible for pool capital improvements cost not to exceed $80,000. Terry Copeland seconded the motion and motion passed. So what it means, they're expecting that city share in capital improvements not to exceed $80,000 if the city governing body wishes to continue to open the super splash. So it is not included in the budget, but that is the intent. So if the direction is given for them to move forward to keep the pool open, then I think at some point, city and park will enter into an agreement with the understanding of the capital improvement that they are going to do at the pool, that we will share the cost up to $80,000. So yes, when you approve the budget, you're not approving $80,000, but you're understanding the intent.
The intent of it, okay. All right, thank you.
Very good. Mr. Van Buster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, initially, as I looked at this, I certainly felt like it might be the right thing to do. I want to see Super Splash stay open. I think that would be better for our community, better for our city. I'd like to see it stay a part of our Parks Department. I do have concerns if it does close, what's going to be there? Are we just going to have an empty facility that's sitting there boarded up? You know, there's a potential of selling that facility to make it profitable for someone who might be able to come in and make some changes and then make it profitable and not the city not operate it. I don't know. I have a lot of questions about it. The other thing, certainly the possibility, I know a lot of the repairs that need to be done were to things that really aren't necessary. decision about this, and I know that, you know, we have a lot of needs for money in our city, for street improvements, for sidewalks, for street lights, for a lot of other things. You know, we have just so much money to utilize for everything. But I appreciate you bringing this before us, and my understanding is that this budget does not include that additional amount from the city. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's important to note that Super Splash has projected revenue of $250,000 in 2015. Estimated expenses, $394,000.
That's fine saying that. Our charge to you, sir, as the director of the Parks Department, is to do a hell of a lot better than that. We do not want to continue to lose the amount of money that we have lost over the number of years. We're looking for it to be managed differently. We're looking for costs to be cut where they need to be cut. We're looking for things to improve. We saw tonight a very good presentation. And I'm speaking for myself as the mayor, not for this board. But I look for a better management of this and the citizens' money when it pertains to our park system. So I'm excited that we're getting ready to undertake a study of all the parks. And a part of this goes to every single park, every single square footage of our park in this city, to look at what should be spent on an annual basis for capital improvements as well as maintenance. And for that to be projected in 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. So the citizens and this board can start to make intelligent decisions along with the park board to make sure the money is being spent. The taxpayers' money needs to be spent correctly and for the right things. We're looking to you, sir, to manage that effort.
I believe we're on the right track. 3 years ago, we lost $225,000 at Super Splash. Last year, it was $166,000. We're moving in the right direction. We're forecasting $144,000 loss for next year. Hopefully, we can move that needle in the right direction.
Mr. Van Bussen.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple more comments. That is a concern of mine, that if we do this, if we do come up with some additional funds to assist the park department keep this open this year, what happens next year? What happens the year after that? Do we have a continuation of that? And that's certainly a concern. I look at the cash balance back in 2010, 2011 was $1.2 million, and now we're down way below half of that. You know, that's a concern. I look at the unreserved fund balance, which was over $1 million in 2010, 2011. It's down to, I'm looking at this correctly, it looks like 91,000. Is that correct? That's a huge concern. And so, to concur with what the mayor said, I think we really need to think about just, thinking outside the box a little bit and what we're doing there. It may take a total reorganization of the park department. I've seen reorganizations in the business world in the past when sometimes they just move everything around and everything really stays the same. And it's kind of like, taking your car and you have a flat tire, so you just rotate the tires and you leave the flat there. We don't need that, certainly, but we do need something to happen to revitalize the parks, to use the monies we have there in an effective manner. And, it's a big part of our city. It's important to our city, our park department is. Thank you.
Ms. Nelson.
I do have an additional question and it was referencing Alderman Van Buskirk's. In 2014 is projected, the unreserved fund balance is $580,000, give or take, and it goes estimated in the 2014-15 down to $91,000. Do you have a reasoning of why that would decrease so much?
Yes, your revenue is 1.2 million, your expenses are 1.5 million. And due to that, you begin to drop that fund balance reserve. Now, there is a cushion in there of 96,000 for the equipment vehicle replacement that gives you some buffer in the budget.
But is that...
Each year, you're spending down your reserves to maintain your park equipment.
Right.
And we're reaching the end of the useful life of the swimming pool. It's important for the board to be aware that at some point, there's going to be some costs associated with an older pool.
True. And then, but that 96,000 cushion for vehicle replacement, is that only to be used on vehicles, or do you take that out to do other cushionings in other areas?
It could be used as the board determines.
Seems fit.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Park board.
Park record.
Mr. Green.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Green has the floor.
I believe you have to change.
How much time do you need, Michael?
About 1 minute, maybe less.
I'm more than happy to change.
You got 10 seconds, Michael.
He's built.
Feel like I'm on Jeopardy.
I'm dating myself my second tape, I'm sure.
Mr. Green.
Thank you. All right, so just, I don't know, the thoughts that are in my head right now, the crazy thoughts that are in my head. The way I look at it, no matter the financial situation that we're seeing this right now, the fact is the parks is undergoing a citywide study next year for all the parks, including Super Splash. If Super Splash were to shut down, then you're going to study, if the study says that the Super Splash should open back up, you're going to be losing a lot of clientele, you're going to be losing a lot of the workers, you're going to be losing a lot of the base that Super Splash has. So, honestly, in my mind, the way I look at it, with the intent that is of this, the intent of this, I feel like I have to support it just for at least 1 year while the study is done, so we can get all our bearings, and the Parks Department can find out what all is going on, and what the long-term projections for maintenance, long-term projections for capital improvements, everything that's needed there. Then I will say I've had several constituents reach out to me over the last couple of weeks. Some disgruntled, telling me that they think that if Super Splash isn't open until Labor Day, that it should be shut down, and many saying that they think it should be open for, as long as we can try to keep it open, because they think it's a great viability to our community. And so with that, knowing that we're doing the study for next year, and if you let Super Splash die now, that it's going to basically kill it no matter what, even if the study says we should keep it alive, I feel like I gotta support this.
Mr. Adrian.
Kevin, I just want to make a comment. When you do the study, for me personally, it's important that what they report is accurate. Yes, that pool is over 50 years old, but all of the things that need to be repaired are changes that were made by the park after they purchased the Raytown Swim Club. Pretty much the old 50-meter pool, as was alone, has very few repairs. So it's really everything that the park did, that the park department did to change that park that's now having problems. And there was a time when they were making money on it, and they were not putting any money aside for repairs, because all equipment eventually wears out. A truck does, a car does, and so do parts to pool pumps. So when they make their report, comment about the pool's 50 years old, because that's not the part that's being broken out for the most part. So please, I appreciate that.
Ms. Belson?
One more question. The fees for service in 2013-14, you had a 67,000, give or take, and then it's increasing to 114,000 in 14-15. Do you know why that increase would be there?
It's at the first page. Yes, 67,000.
800.
The basketball program, youth basketball program is the majority of that revenue.
Okay, that's what I kind of thought.
47,000 roughly for the youth basketball. We have 424 kids registered.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Rick, we good?
One more comment, if you don't mind. I just, you mind?
Go ahead.
I will say two things really quick, just really quick things. Firstly, hopefully with the study, watch Steve, hopefully with this study, we can get a more viable financial outlook at the Parks Department, because I know that has been a huge concern over these last couple months. And secondly, as soon as I was appointed originally to the Parks Board, or not the Parks Board, sorry, the Super Splash Governance Committee, I was adamant that with good marketing, which is what we've seen this last cycle with Super Splash this last season, with good marketing in a couple of years' time, that we can possibly turn this around to be where it isn't as big of a liability as we see it as. And with the marketing that's occurred over the last season, and the fact that, I mean, if you look at, I'm just using Facebook here, they're up to 1,700 followers. That's huge. And the fact is, on social media, and anyone that knows YouTube demographics and everything can tell you that those likes and subscriptions, whatever you talk about, they grow exponentially. And so the more time, the faster they grow. So I think if we keep it open for another year, I think we're going to be in for some good surprises.
I think that certainly the park board are armed with information from the study.
Yes.
They're better able to make a decision on the facts. They bring it back to us. We make the inevitable decision on their recommendations. So I'm excited that the study is a good thing. And any further discussion at this time?
Mayor Bauer, I'll just make one more comment, because there was a question or comment made tonight that we are all part of the city. We are. However, there are laws that we are also bound with. There are funds that are specific for that purpose only. Give you an example. We just had public safety sales tax passed. That is only for that purpose, not for any other purpose. If we have a park levy, that is for park purpose. If we have a senator sewer, that is enterprise fund, that can only be utilized for senator sewer purpose. If we have fire district levy, that is for the firemen. We can say we are all city, we are all the same school district. You can't use that fund for any other purpose but for education. So I just wanted to be clear that you understand that distinction. I understand the philosophy you're saying we're all the same, but by law, we are bound not to commingle, not to mix, not to transfer those funds. Now, as I read those minutes, which says capital improvement projects, what it means, if we have to spend the money for capital improvement projects, then the money has to come from capital improvement fund, which means that the budget that you approve for capital improvement programs with the general budget has to be trimmed $80,000 if we move forward with that. And just, I wanted to be clear with that we will go back to drawing board with the management team and sit down and talk about how and where we can trim $80,000 from capital improvement budget. What it means buying a less police car, buying a equipment for public works. I don't know. That's why, Mr. Ben Busker, I was unable to answer your question when you asked where that money is going to come from. I don't know. We will have to figure it out once the direction is given to us. So I just want to make sure we are clear on that.
Ms. Melson?
On the minutes, that budget of the park board was passed only contingent on with Super Splash being open about the cost share thing. If this does not pass tonight, how does that budget that they passed is not valid?
Mr. Wilson, give me. Welcome, George Mitchell, the president of the park board.
And I guess my concern here is that,
Shirley, can you just repeat your question just one more time, just so I
well,
understand it?
and my concern is that the park board approved the budget with the option of Super Splash being open contingent upon the city park cost share agreement, and then it goes for the $80,000. So if it does not pass tonight by the board, then how does that affect that statement?
And I guess the better question that you use to clarify is which part are you saying that doesn't pass? If you're talking about the park board budget, which is in front of you, if that passes, then you have another step to do. If you decide not to pass the park board budget, then there's some other ramifications that we have to discuss later. It won't be a knock on, it would be, the park board budget would then have to be redone. If it doesn't get redone in time, then it reverts back to, as Alderman Green talked about earlier, back to last year's budget or the current year budget right now. And there's some ramifications of that, which we really don't want to get into. So we're really hoping that the board passes the budget in front of it.
And I guess, and so what you're saying then is that we have another step to do is the $80,000, the decision on that.
Right.
Because what you're deciding right now is, or we're deciding is just to pass the park board budget as presented tonight. Because my question, concern is with the option with Super Splash open contingent upon city parks cost share agreement with each party. I find that very interesting statement. Responsible pool capital improvement costs not to exceed 80 grand. And that's the way that you brought this budget forward is with that statement. Y'all passed it because of that statement.
Correct.
Right.
Based on some discussions that we had with the city. And so we are hoping that the city can assist the park board with the $80,000 from the capital improvement fund, hopefully from the general fund. If not, you have the budget in front of you, and so you see if we open Super Splash next year, that number that concerns you, that 91,000 and some other dollars, that concerns you, that concerns us as well.
Right.
Which is why we did not make a decision before not to open Super Splash and look at those numbers.
Right.
And so if you guys are asking for better management of the pool, that would be a step for us to better manage the pool by not having it open because it is a major drain. And so we're asking for some assistance. If you guys want to keep the pool open, which we hope we all do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, that didn't sound good. Mr. Buster.
Mr. Mayor, if we pass this budget, the amount we're talking about in the city is not in that budget. So that would be a whole other issue up for discussion before our board. And whether or not we approve that amount or not, there is no obligation to that in passing this budget.
No, there's not.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
I'm going to support this on the grounds that exactly as it was proposed by the park department. That if we vote yes for it, it doesn't mean that we do intend to find the $80,000 to support the capital improvements.
I think that's the intent of what's in front of us, as I understand it. I think we're going to vote on this. We're going to approve this. We have to vote on it with the intent of finding a place to derive that $80,000 from. What I'm very fearful of is that Super Splash does not open in 2015. It is gone. It will never open again. And that's a really important decision for agreed upon those points. I think that tonight we have to make the decision that this budget is approved with the intent of finding a place for the $80,000 in good state of working together. Just as any department would come to us, if any department had an issue, they would come to us and ask for the same amount of money. I don't want to open up the door to continue to have these things, but this is a real issue within our control tonight. We can reopen Super Splash in 2015. We're armed with a good study. We're able to make an intelligent decision based on the facts. That's what's before us tonight, and I think we should be approving this with the intent of finding a home from which that $80,000 comes from. Further discussion? Ready to vote? Call the vote. We have a motion and a second already. Call the vote.
Alderman Ernst,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Nelson,
Pass.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Asia,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman DeVesker,
I'll pass.
Alderman Emerson,
No.
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman DeVesker,
Yes.
Motion passes. Go do. Many great things. Kevin, thank you. George, thanks for coming out. Ladies, thanks for coming out and making your presentation. Mom, be very proud of your girls. All right. As the clerk perform the first reading on item number 6, please.
an ordinance establishing the compensation for the office of mayor for the term beginning April 2015.
Anything else you'd like to elaborate on?
The elected officials compensation committee was established by the Board of Aldermen to review the compensation for elected officials and to make recommendations for adjustments. An elected official's compensation must be set prior to a person taking office. Compensation cannot change during that term of office unless additional needs are added. Accordingly, any adjustment to the Board of Aldermen that the Board of Aldermen deems appropriate must be made prior to this April 7th, 2015 election. The elected officials compensation committee met on September 24th. Their recommendation relative to the mayor was to keep the monthly compensation at the current rate of $1,000 per month and increase the monthly car allowance to $250 per month, which is currently at $200 per month. That's all I have down.
I want to thank the members of that compensation committee who have worked previously. This is a committee that gets together every 2 years. Mr. Bob Seago, Mr. Tim McCraw, Joe Riggs, Woody Whitman, and Liz Sargent's on that committee as well. I believe the due diligence that was done, you got a spreadsheet that shows the different cities where we stand in comparison to other cities. This is the first reading on this. Open for discussion. Mr. Midwester.
I'd like to make an amendment to the ordinance to keep the level for the monthly car allowance the same as the current level, which would be $200 a month.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second on that. To amend that. Any discussion on that? I will tell you that I wasn't looking for that to come tonight in that form, but I will certainly be prepared to say to you, I suggest that we also stay with the 200. I'm happy that somebody in their wisdom back in the year 2000 boosted the mayor's budget by close to 60% at that time, which the amount of work that goes into this job, which I have learned, I was told originally it would be a couple nights a week, maybe
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman Asia,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Ernst.
Yes.
All right, with that, that is the first reading. If there's no further discussion on this item, we will take it up at our next council meeting. Okay. Move on to item number 7, please.
An ordinance establishing the compensation for the office of city collector for the term beginning April 2015.
Discussion on this matter? You had a chance to read the document? No discussion?
Motion to approve.
No, not yet. Still first reading.
Sorry.
No discussion. I'll move on with the next item. I'm going to assume that we will move on to the next item. All right, number 8 is also a first reading. Ask the clerk to perform that first reading, please.
An ordinance establishing the compensation for the office of Board of Alderman for the term beginning April 2015.
More discussion on that item? You guys don't want to cut your allowance? Want to cut your pay?
I'm good with where it is.
What's that?
I'm good with where it is. Thank you.
Very good. No discussion on that. We will carry that over to the next meeting as well. Thank you. Yes, please perform the first reading on item number 9, please.
An ordinance authorizing an agreement contract for transit service by and between the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority and the City of Raytown, Missouri, in an amount not to exceed $56,840.
Mr. Benson, what would you like to elaborate on regarding the subject, sir? I do know that you're requesting a suspension of the rules.
We are. And this contract is our annual contract renewal with the KCATA for the city's Metroflex services. Under the contract, current hours, our Metroflex service will not change. They will remain from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and from 2:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday with one bus. The cost of the contract is $56,840, which is within the budgeted amount for this contract. And it is for a 12-month period, beginning November 1st through October 31st of 2015. Because this contract does go into effect November 1st, we are asking for a suspension of the rules tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Van Busker.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. How does this 12-month period, as far as the amount of money, compare to the last 12 months? Is that
It's the same budgeted amount as our...
exactly the same?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I move that we suspend the rules.
Second.
For second reading.
Motion is made and seconded to suspend for suspension of the rules. Discussion regarding that particular motion. Call a vote on suspension of the rules, please.
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman Asia,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Ernst,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Before I ask the clerk to perform the second reading of this bill, please.
an ordinance authorizing and approving the contract for transit service by and between the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority and the City of Raytown, Missouri, in an amount not to exceed $56,840.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Nelson's got the motion approved, second by Mr. Ager. Further discussion before we vote. Mr. Green.
Sorry, I may be missing some here. I just got a quick question. So we budgeted $75,000 for this, and the amount is $56,840. So are we using those funds for anything else, or we just have the $75,000 budget for this, or?
The $75,000 is what we budgeted for next year for this contract, and that was before we received this contract. A few years back, the contract was for $75,000. The cost of services had increased, and decision was made rather than we were not able to increase or didn't want to reallocate funding from other aspects to cover the increased cost of the operation of Metroflex. We reduced the hours of service
discussion? We've got a motion and a second on the second reading. Call the vote, please.
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman Asher,
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Please read the first reading on item number 10. And again, it's noted that the suspension of the rules is requested as well.
an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement with the Jackson County Land Trust for the demolition of buildings and other site improvements on property located at 9110 East 69th Street and for the sharing and cost of said demolition.
Discussion or motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules. Second came from Pat Ertz. Original motion, Mr. Josh Green. Discussion on suspension of the rules. Call the vote, please.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Asher,
Yeah.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Please perform the second reading on this item.
an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement with the Jackson County Land Trust for the demolition of buildings and other site improvements on property located at 9110 East 69th Street and for the sharing in the cost of said demolition.
Into discussion or motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Mr. Ertz has a motion to approve, second by Mr. Josh Green. Discussion on this item before we vote. Ms. Emerson.
So the city will pay $3,700 for demolition? Is that right?
Whatever the remaining balance is, about $2,000, yes, the city will pay that remaining balance.
No further discussion? Call the vote.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson, Alderman Emerson,
Abstain?
Alderman Nelson,
Yes.
Alderman Asher,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
All right, with that, that concludes our regular session, our legislative session. We'll go to discussion item number 4, is brought by Alderman Pat Ertz regarding drug and tobacco research.
Thank you, Mayor Bauer and Board of Aldermen. I'll try to be brief since I know it's getting late. This was brought to you, I believe, back in June or July. I can't remember exactly when. We first talked about the smoke shops, and we did a little more research, what I was asked to go do, and I come back with you with a couple of ideas for this. The city of Independence, as well as many cities around the area, have limited the number of smoke shops in their communities. The attitude or the idea is to make Raytown a more inviting place to live. Well, it doesn't seem to be the kind of discount smokes shops as being something that we would want to have all over the town, much like we have done with certain entities like Payday in the store like that, obviously, anybody, if that is all they are selling, people under the age of 18 would not go in there. You can also restrict the number of tobacco shops, as Independence did. In their case, it was 4, and if this was, should the board want to move forward with this, I would just see what city staff thought that number should be, as I don't know how many we have in town now. It's not meant to put anybody permanently in business, out of business, but it certainly would be meant to maybe prevent more coming into the city. Also, in talking to our chief of police, talking about restricting these sales, he also thought we should also add that the sale of e-cigarettes be limited to people who are 18 years or older. Also, my understanding is that is not the case right now, at least it wasn't according to the chief of police. So there's the 4 bullets that I have on there. Yes, what's anybody's thoughts?
Red Buster.
I would certainly be in favor of doing this and having our staff go forward with an ordinance to bring this into fruition. I think it's a good idea, it would be good for the community, and I appreciate all the work you've done with all the mayors. Thank you. I do want to mention too, my preference would be to eliminate the sale of this garbage in our city totally. That's probably not legally possible, so we should do all we can to curtail it and restrict it. Thank you.
Mr. Lightfoot.
I can say I understand the points of view from both the aldermen. It's, you know, I've been a kid myself, and even when I've got any kid with me, I hate to walk into one of these gas stations and have something like that on display where you're going to maybe get caught off guard or whatever, but you sure don't want the kids to see it and be asking you, what is this? And I think it's totally inappropriate. I understand the restriction of it to the tobacco stores or where people that have to be 18 years old would go in to. That seems like a much more appropriate place to, if you got to have this stuff around, but that, you know, that'd be the place to have it, not somewhere. You make a good example, kids walking to the store to get a candy bar like, you know, we did when we were kids or anyone does. I think it's pretty inappropriate and just, yeah, so.
Mr. Drayton.
I share some sympathies with Alderman Lightfoot on this. Personally, I'm a free market guy. I mean, you know, it is what it is. But I honestly, looking at our little packets here that Pat kind of put together, are 3 and 4. I don't see having a problem with restricting the sale of paraphernalia to 18 years old and older, and also restricting the sale of e-cigarettes to 18 years old and older, which I'm kind of amazed that's not a law. I thought that would be, you know, something statewide with the whole advent of the e-cigarette anyway. That being said, I can see where you're coming from on the, you know, I personally don't have children, but I can see the sentiment of having a child and having to ask on that. And I think the possibility of it being in tobacco shops only is something that is worthy of being discussed.
Very good. Mr. Willard, you have all you need from us, sir, as far as consensus from this body. We'll not bring back.
Not to be heard. Do I sense that Mr. Benson and I sense the consensus is to be as restrictive as we can with respect to limiting the sale of drug and tobacco paraphernalia and limit the existence of smoke shops? This limitation of smoke shops would be with respect to zoning if we follow the ordinance. How does the independence model? Is that what you want?
I think it would be wise to begin down that road. Personally, what I read in the news, I can see smoke shops going in a lot of different directions in the near future. And I think to have something set up to where they would be might be a good idea just to start.
So limiting amending them would be our first intent, and if along in that, we restrict the drug and, restrict or prohibit drug and tobacco, drug paraphernalia, excuse me, to the maximum extent we can. That's the first intent of the council.
I think that is the first intent, yes.
The second one
If
is-
I may, sorry, I just want to say, I have no intent on limiting, personally myself, on limiting the number of businesses. I just want to get that out. Okay, I thought I heard that in there, I wasn't.
Yeah, I did say
Just
that.
one second.
I did say that. I thought I had heard discussion of that argument back and forth.
It sounds like those are going to be two different
Yeah.
topics,
Okay.
the way you're doing it. So one
Maybe bring-
is not dependent on the other, but
And to what extent we can look at and pass an ordinance as a second or third topic here with respect to tobacco and e-cigarette sales to 18 years old.
yes.
Yeah, I want to interject my opinion back in there as well again, because I'm kind of, mine is, I want to get that kind of thing out of gas stations or whatever, and I just want to restrict the sale of paraphernalia to those tobacco shops. I'm not necessarily on the same page as restricting how many tobacco shops there are, because that is kind of free, and I think that'll take care of itself. But, yeah.
So we'll throw that restriction of the number in as an option is what we're doing then maybe. You may or may not want this to.
I think the definition of what a smoke shop is or can become is very key to it, how people would feel if you went streets full of that. But that's another topic. I agree that these are two separate things. I do agree with all the aldermen that we'd like to restrict as much as we can the sale of drug paraphernalia in the city of Raytown.
I think I understand the assignment, and as I worked on it last July, it's not an easy assignment or subject, so I think it'll probably be 30 days before we're back with something before you, but we'll get something back before you.
Still making progress.
Thank you.
This progress, and then I'll talk to Mr. Sherman Bear and decide if we do that either in the study session ahead, or if we're gonna go right into open, wonderful discussion in a reading of an ordinance. You can use your judgment on that.
What I'm hearing is there is certainly consensus to move this forward as rapidly as possible. I prefer it in the form of a resolution or an ordinance and
All right.
get it on instead of another study session where we talk about it.
Yes,
until
I think so.
it's resolved.
Okay, you don't want another second, you want, I got it.
Move it.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Frazier?
When it's brought back, I would hope that they would have a definition of exactly what a tobacco shop is, what the limitations are. At this point, I